VOD review, and it has nothing to do with actual gameplay. We're going to talk about post-fight analysis and how to argue, and not even argue, but how to communicate better in with your teammate. So we're just gonna VOD review this really quickly, hopefully really quickly, and it doesn't expand too long. I already see mistakes in how people are communicating. I think what I've seen the first couple minutes already, and I think what Sweet is trying to do is trying to build a bridge, but he's doing it incredibly ineffectively. So his intent does not match up with his actions. At the end of the day, Sykes does not feel heard, and then he feels like he's getting bullied. So let's go over this and see how we can fix it.
Bro, please don't, because you are on drugs, bro.
I'm just not gonna talk anymore because this is
Jesus
the most insane gaslight.
Okay, so you are on drugs. You are this. Okay, so um. Okay, so obviously they were talking before this, but one of the main things you want to avoid in like communication in general is you want to avoid labeling. And what I mean by labeling is you are and then a noun or an adjective, right? So let's listen to that again.
Bro, please don't, because you are on drugs, bro.
You are on drugs.
This is the most insane gaslighting I've ever heard.
Bro, what?
So Sykes says he's being gaslit. That's just him saying that he doesn't feel heard, right? And that the other person is not doing a good job of feeling heard. The whole purpose of this, is just to feel heard, is make the other person feel heard before you do anything else. So
I'm just saying how I've interpreted your comm.
okay, so Sweet is saying, I'm just saying how I'm interpreting your comm. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to separate what he's saying and how he's interpreting. Like he's trying to separate what he's interpreting, right? How he's hearing something. Let's use yellow instead. How he's hearing something versus what Sykes is saying. So in Sweet's mind, he's trying to make a distinction. And this is like a good attempt, a good first step, but it's actually incredibly ineffective because when you're saying what I'm hearing, here's the issue, right? When it comes down to it is this is I or me, right? And then Sykes, this is you. Okay. So the reason why I'm separating this is because I'm hearing this. This is what I hear. This is what I feel. This is what I'm interpreting. Right. And I understand what Sweet's intent here is, but it's incredibly ineffective because at the end of the day, the person who doesn't feel heard and the emotions that you need to address is Sykes. Right. So Sykes is the one who doesn't feel heard. So what I would recommend that if anybody is in a fight like this, or just in general, remove the word I and me from the conversation, at least in the first half of the conversation or the majority of the first half of the conversation as much as possible. And then just take a guess at what Sykes is feeling. So don't say, I feel this way. Just say, Sykes, you feel frustrated. What do you feel frustrated about? And get into the specifics. Or it seems like you're really frustrated about something. Why don't you tell us what that is? Like, how do you feel? What's going on? Like, these are probing questions. These are data seeking questions. And you want to ask those kinds of questions. But the thing is, though, if you're saying, I'm hearing this, you're making it about you, right? And then the thing is, though, if you're Sykes and who's only focused on his emotions, which is not a bad thing, it's not a good or a bad thing, but it's really hard to focus on other people's emotions if you have this overwhelming emotion inside of you. Like if Sykes is a cup, right? And then here's water, his cup is full. He can't hold other people's emotions until this cup is drained. So what Sweet should do is try to drain this cup, and so that way Sweets can fill it with his own water, his own emotions, his own feelings. I know that could have gotten real gay real quick, so I tried to avoid that as much as possible, but obviously pointing it out made it more gay. So anyways. So
in no way am I blaming literally anything
see, am I in no way in blaming I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And it's not okay. A lot of people will say that Sweet is doing that because he's narcissistic. I don't think so at all. What he's really trying to do is just saying he's trying to make a distinction. Like this is how I feel versus this is what you interpret. Right.
I'm saying we just needed to chill in the back spot.
And also in this situation, Sweet also doesn't feel heard. Neither side feels heard. Now the trick is when both sides are talking about their emotions, nobody gets heard, right? Because both sides, here's Sweet, here's Sikezz, and this isn't a collaboration. There's a wall between. There's a side. There are sides. In order to break down this wall, somebody needs to shut the fuck up and just listen to the other person, ask how and what questions, not why. You want to avoid why, because no matter what, even if you mean well with why, and even if the other person knows what why, like if you're asking why with good intent, why will always feel accusatory. So you want to go with constructive questions, how and what. Like, how do you feel? What were you feeling? What are your thoughts about this? Right. So with Sweet, what he could do is the IGL because he's the leader, not just the in-game leader, but the leader outside of the game as well. What a good leader would do is say, okay, so listen, there is confusion here. There's a concern that you feel like hasn't been addressed. What is that concern? And then just shut the fuck up. And then Sykes will go on for like 5 paragraphs, which is fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to cut these down. Sweet's job is to get it down to one sentence or even like one word, you know? And the easiest way to cut it down is by using the word concern and addressing the concern. Don't address what Sykes wants, his desire. Instead, address his concern. Say, okay, it's a great way to frame it is by saying, Sykes, you're concerned about this. And then if you're wrong, here's the trick. If you are wrong or if you're off the mark, don't take offense to it. If Sykes says, no, you're wrong, this is how I feel, shut the fuck up even more, and let him correct you. Because correction is a sign of collaboration. We were talking about that wall earlier, right? With Sweet, then Sykes, we have that wall between these two. To destroy that wall, if Sykes is saying, no, you're wrong, this is how I feel, what he's doing is correcting Sweet and he's collaborating with Sweet at that point. He's like, no, this is how I feel. And then you're working together to figure out the truth. So this is just like common basic communication. I've noticed that a lot of people, especially pros in the Apex scene, just don't have. So, rule number one, try to remove the word I in your communication as much as possible. The word I, just cut that out. 2, listen to what the other person says, just shut the fuck up. And then 3, repeat back what the other person says as simply as possible. Just say, like, listen, this is how you feel. And then 4, let them correct you. Let correct you. Let them correct you because them correcting you is a good sign. It's like, no, listen, this is how I really feel. And then you try it again. And then you go back to step 2. You listen and then you try it again. And let's say it's like let's say it's a target board, right? Let's say your first shot is here. You're really or shit, that's fucking blue. Let's say you're really, really close, but you're not on the bullseye. Sykes will pull you in closer until you get to the bullseye. He's like, no, 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 this is how I really feel. And then you go to step 4 again, and you go to step 3 again. You try to state what they are feeling and what their concerns are, and you get the bullseye the next time, right? So again, and also avoid using labels as much as possible, negative labels like you are this. And also you don't avoid definitives, right? Definitives. Definitives are never, always, and shit like that. Like you never do this, you always do this. Because what that does is you are telling the other person that they are incapable of change, and that you see them in a certain way and that you are unwilling to see them in a different way, which is terrible. If you want somebody to change, you have to communicate to them that you are willing to see them change. So if you use the word never and you use the word always, you are literally forcing them to not change. If you want their behavior to change, what you can do is just listen. It's like, hey, what's going on? The fact that listen to what happens here with Sweet.
And that's on me.
He tries to take responsibility, which is good. It's just how he does it is inefficient and ineffective, clearly.
Literally entirely saying my thought process that game.
See, my thought process?
And no, bro, holy shit, man. What has happened to you?
Okay, so he's saying what is happening. That's Sweet expressing confusion. If Sweet is confused, it means he doesn't have more data. When you are making a decision, whether it is emotional or tactical or business or whatever, most of the time you don't need more time. You need more information. So, like in Apex, when you are trying to scout for a new position, you physically move to get more data. If you are having a conversation with somebody and you are confused, ask more questions, get more information, get more data. That's it. So, Sweet, if you're watching this, I would highly recommend that you ask more questions, and those questions do not use the word why ever. Stick with how and what questions, and remove the word I from your conversation as much as you possibly can, and just focus completely on the other person until they feel heard. You want them to be like, oh yeah, that's right, that's how I feel, you know. And the fact that you guys are arguing about this after a death shows me that you're unwilling to have these kinds of conversations outside of the game, and that you have severe lack of awareness of your styles of communication, and that you just let this kind of shit build up. I've talked to quite a few pros. If you're watching this, you know who I'm talking about, who've had similar issues, and almost always it comes down to just talk to each other privately behind the scenes. If you guys want somebody there to mediate those kinds of conversations in a neutral way to make sure somebody feels heard, feel free to reach out to me. I do this literally all the time. I don't charge for it because I think people need to fucking actually know how to talk to each other and feel heard. Everybody deserves to feel heard. It's very clear here that everybody on this team does not feel heard. There's a lack of information on the other side, and you guys just don't. You guys are structuring your conversations just ineffectively. So that's pretty much it. That's my VOD review for the day. Kind of soft skills, but it's really essential. I really hope you guys take something from this, and yeah, good luck.